So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Today, as a part of our international dialogue series, we at Middle East Insights are very privileged to host Jim Kavanagh today. He's a political and cultural analyst. He currently is an independent political analyst and commentator. He works from a left socialist perspective. His work is on Substack. You can search for it, Jim Kavanagh Substack. And he's also very frequent at tweeting on X or Twitter with the handle as The Polemicist. And he has frequent international media appearances, both on TV and radio. His former positions were he was a senior research fellow at Wesleyan University, associated professor at Carnegie Mellon, assistant professor at Princeton University. And today, on behalf of Middle East Insights, we are hosting a very important topic, which is doing a lot of rounds in terms of rumor mongering also, and in terms of what will be the impact if it happens. The topic is, will United States of America strike Iran? The recent explosion at Bandar Abbas in Iran, what exactly was that? What are the ramifications of it? There have been 3 rounds of negotiations between US and Iran on the various kinds of, treaties regarding nuclear non-proliferation and bilateral recognition. So, to start with, sir, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you. And my first question to you is that it is in the news, and I might be wrong, that Steve Witkoff, who is a real estate developer with ties to Donald Trump from 1983 onwards, and very strong ties, he is being guided because he does not have history or experience in nuclear talks. He is being guided by Robert Malley, who was a key figure in 2015 JCPOA. Malley was placed on unpaid leave in 2023 after his security clearance was suspended, raising questions about the credibility or influence of his associates like Di Mino in current negotiations. How much of it is true?
Well, I haven't heard that about Robert Malley. I know who Robert Malley is, and he would be a good influence on Steve Witkoff. The interesting thing about Witkoff, Trump has appointed Witkoff to be the negotiator really in every major negotiation. Ukraine, Gaza, and now Iran. Witkoff is the guy who's representing Trump, and to a certain extent, that may be a good thing, because what Trump is doing is ignoring the old State Department neocon deep state people and having this guy whom he trusts personally, who's a personal pal of his. And so Witkoff is someone who goes into these negotiations without the same kinds of presuppositions and assumptions and preconditions that the normal deep State Department people are going to go into. So he's capable of coming back and saying, "Oh, that's the Iranians said this, and that sounds pretty reasonable to me. The Russians said this, and that sounds pretty reasonable to me." And Mali would be a good influence on him, I think. But the problem is, where do you go with that? Look what's happened with Ukraine and Gaza. Witkoff got a ceasefire in Gaza that Netanyahu didn't want to give, but goes a couple of months go by, and Netanyahu goes right back to doing anything he wants and breaks the ceasefire with impunity. At the end of the day, nothing much came of that really in terms of settling the issue, the conflict in Gaza. And Trump is very much guided by his own little personal idiosyncrasies, which sometimes are good and sometimes are bad. But his personal idiosyncrasy on Gaza is, I'm going to turn it into Atlantic City. This is silly. Now with Ukraine, he's got Witkoff comes back to him and says, "Oh, the Russians said this. That's not a bad thing." and Trump listens to him, but then there are 100 people around him who are going, "You can't do that. If you do that, you will have lost to Russia," which is true. So what's Trump going to do? He hasn't decided yet. I'm going to I'm going to walk away from this, or does that mean I'm going to walk away from the negotiations but keep supporting Ukraine? Does it mean I'm going to stop all aid to Ukraine? We don't know yet. So similarly with this issue, Trump has a history on Iran. And again, I think personally, he has an instinct. I don't want to get into a big war. So he sends Netanyahu says, I want to go to war with Iran. And Trump says, no, I'm going to send Witkoff and we're going to talk to Iran. Now, Iran's position is perfectly reasonable here. We don't want nuclear weapons. We don't have nuclear weapons. We aren't developing nuclear weapons, but we want to have be respected. We want to have real reciprocal relations with everybody. We want to be recognized as a respected regional power in our own right, etc. And Witkoff can come back and say, well, and Iran will say, if they have nuclear weapons, meaning Israel, why can't we? I mean, why are you coming to us? Go to them. So Witkoff may be naive enough to think that's all right, but there is a coterie, and a very strong coterie, especially on the Israel issue and the Zionism issue, of neocons and deep state who want to do what Netanyahu wants to do, and we have to remember that this business, this is not about nuclear weapons. That's a phony pretext. Okay, this is about. They had a deal about nuclear weapons, and Trump was the one who abrogated it. And what really it looks like Witkoff is proposing now is that same deal coming back into play. And in some sense, that's all Trump is going to get from Iran. What they want from Iran, what they've wanted from Iran all the time, what the Israelis want and what the American Zionists want, is Iran to give up its missile capabilities and to give up its support of the Palestinian resistance group throughout the region. That's what they want. And they're going to demand, and I can show you the memo from the White House on the White House website saying what we want from Iran is give up its missiles, give up its support for the terrorist groups in the region, which is the Palestinian resistance, etc. So that's what they want. They want Iran to accede to Israeli hegemony in the region, to giving up any military power that will enable it to hurt Israel in response to any attack that Israel makes on it. And the Israelis are dead set to doing this now. They think it's a very propitious time for them because Iran has developed its capabilities and it can hurt Israel. And Israel wants to get rid of that. And Israel is in a very strong position now, it thinks. They've gotten rid of Syria. That's a very important factor in this Iran situation. That Syria is no longer, strategic depth for Iran in any way, shape, or form. So you have a very bizarre, very tough situation. There's going to be a lot of pressure. My feeling has always been, I wrote many things about Iran, about the drive for war with Iran. When this Gaza thing started, I said this is going to end with Israel attacking Iran. That's what Israel needs to do with this. And I think Trump introduces more uncertainty in it. Then I would have said a year ago, 90% chance they're going to attack Iran. Now I'm going to say 70% chance they're going to attack Iran at the end of the day. Trump is very difficult to predict. Look, when he was president, he did a number of contradictory things with Iran. Okay. He killed Qasem Soleimani. He assassinated him, and along with the head Al-Mandi of a general of the Iraqi army, who was an ally of his. He just blew him up. Okay. And that's an act of war. Then when the Iranians took down an American drone, there was a big push to attack Iran. And Donald Trump ordered an attack on Iran. He ordered that would have been the beginning. That would have been the whole thing. It would have started right there. And 10 minutes before the attack, he called it off. So that's in that one decision. I'll order an attack on Iran. Then I'll think about it again. I apparently watched Tucker Carlson or something and said, no, I shouldn't do that. 10 minutes before, the ships were out. They were ready to launch, and he called it off. So that's Donald Trump. You don't know. And that, I said, frankly, that was the most consequential kind of anti-war order a president has given since JFK refused air support at the Bay of Pigs. For Donald Trump to call off with 10 minutes to go, an attack that he already ordered, So is he going to order the attack? Is he going to call off the attack? I don't really know. But my reading of the entire situation and also during his administration, he set up a war room, an Iran mission center in the CIA to prepare for war with Iran. And he signed what was the Israeli press said was a secret deal with Netanyahu in the White House to prepare for war with Iran. And Netanyahu said that deal was more important to him than Trump recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. So there has been a push from Israel for at least 15 years for the United States to get to war. And I think Israel is convinced it can do what it wants. It can attack Iran, and the Americans, whether the Americans like it or not, they'll come in and help them at the end of the day. And of course, it can't really even attack Iran without some American support. But I think Israel is convinced it can get and will get American support. And I think they're probably right about that. So my position is I still think there's a 70% chance that it's going to end up with an Israeli-American attack on Iran. But I am, at this point, extremely unsure because Donald Trump does one thing one day and the exact opposite thing the same day.
Yeah. So, but I don't understand this entire narrative of at the pretext of fighting against the Houthis.
Yeah.
There are a lot of shipments, armaments being shipped to the island of Diego Garcia. And does US or Israel have that kind of capability of a bunker buster bomb to the extent where they could harm the underground nuclear facilities within Iran?
Yes, I think, well, probably they can't get them all necessarily, but yes, they do. Trump has sent 20,000-pound bunker buster bombs to Israel, and Diego Garcia is the staging area for attack on Iran. That's one of the other things. They have moved enormous amount of military military apparatus into the area for that reason, to be able to attack Iran. And this is the point. While Trump is sitting around dithering and thinking, well, should I do it or shouldn't I do it? They're moving apparatus, military means to do it into the area, and they can do it. And frankly, number two, this is very important, and it's I guarantee you it's very important to Iran and to everybody else in the region. If there is a U.S. military, U.S.-Israel attack on Iran, there is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that Israel will use nuclear weapons. Okay? They have the nuclear weapons, and they will use them against Iran. They are itching to do that because they want to show the world, you screw with us, this is what happens to you, okay? So they have weapons that they will not hesitate for a second to use nuclear weapons against Iran. They will, if Donald Trump has himself said, I will use, previously, I would have said, I did say, oh, the Americans will tell them you can't use, we'll come in with you if you don't use nukes. And they'll say, yeah, okay, we won't use nukes, but then they will. Because the Americans aren't going to back out once they're in. And they know that. The Israelis know that. This time around, Donald Trump has said, I'll nuke Iran. So, the question of if there's a war that's started, because Israel is going to be hit. If Israel attacks Iran, I think Iran and its allied forces in the region, Hezbollah, are going to respond. They have the missile capability to hit and damage and kill people in Green Line Israel, in Tel Aviv. And that's going to be, and Israel will say, oh, that's that. We're going to nuke them. And, nobody's going to invade Iran and take it over the way they did Iraq. They can't do that. But what they want to do is set Iran back 20 years, get them off the table, get them off the table of the Palestinian resistance, like they did the other countries, Iraq and Syria, et cetera. Get them off the table so that Israel can continue to kill and expel the Palestinians without worrying about Iran coming in to help them. And they want to put Iran in a position where Iran is weakened such that it has to just sit back and accept what Israel does for the next 10, 20 years. And that's the only thing they can use to do that are nuclear weapons, and they will use them. So I don't think the issue of, first of all, what are they hitting? I don't think Iran has a stockpile of nuclear weapons underground. That's not what they're hitting. They're going to try and destroy the nuclear reprocessing facilities, but even that, they're going to try and destroy the ballistic missile production facilities. The ballistic, where you've seen the pictures of Iran where they have huge underground caverns with missiles in them. These are the things that the Israelis want to destroy.
And according to you, what exactly happened at Bandar Abbas port on April 26, where there was a catastrophic explosion at Shahid Rajai port? Supposedly 18 people have been injured, more than 800, 18 people have been killed, more than 800 have been injured. And the incident was attributed to the explosion of chemical containers, possibly containing sodium perchlorate, and it is also at the geopolitical choke point of Strait of Hormuz. And after that, there was this another NASA update stating that 3 unusual heat spots were observed in Bandar Abbas area. There is a concern that an underground nuclear facility in the area may have been damaged.
Yeah, or the Israelis used some kind of low radiation yield nuclear weapon. You can see various analyses. I don't know what happened, but I don't believe the official story. It's like the Beirut port explosion that happened a few years ago. That was an enormous explosion. These explosions are huge. They are some of the largest explosions, ostensibly non-nuclear explosions in history. And I don't know what weapons they are using here. I don't believe for a second that was an accident. I think it was an Israeli speculation on my part at this point. I don't have any evidence for it particularly, but the official story stinks. I think Israel wanted to do that. I think they also do have weapons that there are a number of people online who do analyses of these, and they talk about low radiation nuclear weapons, and you have to do an analysis of the crater. The craters are huge here. And you've got to do a serious scientific measurement of the craters, looking at the radiation signatures and the heat signatures. I don't know what it was, but I suspect, all I can say is I suspect it was an Israeli operation of some kind with some kind of weapon that's either very enhanced and targeted conventional weapon or some kind of particularly designed nuclear weapon with low radiation. I don't know, but I think this is going to happen. The Israel, look, they've assassinated every leader of Hezbollah. They infiltrate and assassinate and sabotage, and they're very good at it, and they do it, and they're going to keep doing it until they are defeated militarily, which is going to have to happen. If there's an attack on Iran is going to have to decide whether it's going all in. This is the problem. Israel has gone all in. We are going to eliminate the Palestinian problem once and for all by killing them and expelling them, which they did in 1948. They killed and expelled 80% of the Palestinians in Greenland. So they'll kill and expel 80% of the rest now. And the world is watching it. No, they have no reason to think anybody's going to come and stop them because nobody has. It's done. They've done it to Gaza. What are you going to do? In a year, Gaza will be populated by nobody but Jewish settlers, unless somebody comes in and defeats Israel and drives them out, because they're not going to leave by some negotiation. They're not. And so Israel is saying, we want to settle this issue once and for all. And the number one actor in the region who's capable of resisting us is Iran. We want to get rid of Iran as an actor who's capable of resisting us. So they were going to do what they wanted, whatever, and they're going to get the United States to go along. And they're convinced they can. I am convinced they can. They always have. There's no reason they should not think they can. If I'm Benjamin Netanyahu, I am saying, he has said many times, we can get the Americans to do what we want. And I've got the Americans to do it over the past year and a half. Anybody 2 years ago, if I had said Israel is going to spend a year and a half slaughtering Palestinians, blowing up every university, every hospital, killing children indiscriminately and deliberately, and obviously with doctors from all over the world saying, you would have said they can't get away with it. Nobody will let them do it. people let them do it. They're still letting them do it. So who's going to stop them if they attack Iran? Nobody. The Americans will join in. And, if they don't, you have to understand the level of Zionist influence in the United States government. And Trump is contradicting. He has his own little personal idiosyncrasies, but at the end of the day, he got up and bragged about how the Adelsons ran the White House. They practically lived in the White House and spent more time there than most of the people who work there. So his Zionist donors, these are the people he thinks are his friends too. At the end of the day, Steve Witkoff is a friend, but and I don't know what Steve Witkoff's personal attitude towards Zionism is, but he's got hundreds of millions of dollars coming into him from staunch Zionists, and the entire American political apparatus. Chuck Schumer's definition of his mission in the Senate is to protect Israel, to be the guardian. Schumer is the guardian, he says. I'm the guardian of Israel. That's my job. My job is to keep the left pro-Israel, not to let them get out of the pro-Israel camp of the Democratic Party. So Nancy Pelosi says, if the Capitol burned to the ground, she literally said this, if the United States Capitol burned to the ground, we'd still be standing here for Israel. So this is very strong. It's changing now in the United States over the past year and a half, but it hasn't changed in the elite, in the political apparatus. And Trump just appointed a woman from the IDF to be on the National Security Council, to oversee the Iran-Israel folder in the National Security Council. So I don't know what Trump is going to do, because Trump has his own little idiosyncrasies, and maybe but I'm not counting on it. I'm betting on the apparatus and the Zionist apparatus, which is decades deep. Its roots are entrenched in the United States political and military apparatus for decades to get what it wants.
I agree with you, because when I read Nancy Pelosi's autobiography, first of all, I was a bit, I don't know what the right word is. I was a bit disappointed with so much of biblical praising, which was unnecessary. Also, no self-critique at all in such a thick book. No self-critique at all. But that was Nancy Pelosi, and everyone knows it. The second point, which I also, along with IPAC and along with the Zionist various lobbies which are there, there's also a very strong population of Iranians. Iranian diaspora in US, Canada, and other countries who fled during 1979, who are more, who have a soft spot for the Pahlavi family. Yep. And they are quite very much in parallel with the thoughts of Jared Kushner and the real estate aspirations, be it in West Bank or in Middle East, anywhere. What do you have to say about this diaspora which fled before 1979 or during the 8-year war between Iran and Iraq, where US was supplying weapons to both of them?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the pro-Pahlavi, as you say, Iran diaspora. I mean, and there's a line that comes out of the Boltons and the Israelis. Really, if we attack Iran, the people will rise up. And it's a regime change operation. Really, they think like they did with Russia. They think this is going to result in a regime change in Iran, and they'll bring the son of the Shah back. There are people in the American government who either think that or pretend to think that and try and sell that line to Donald Trump, who could be sold that line, that's, it's like reminds me of who was the woman with the Chinese woman during the Cold War, who was Chennault, who was a kind of she was a very strong influence in American politics during the Cold War against China. Anyway, so there are diaspora Iranians who are all for this. I don't think they represent a politically powerful constituency relative to other constituencies, but they're there, and they have influence within the foreign policy apparatus. The John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, now Huckabee, and all of these people, all these complete reactionary fools who think that and there's an alliance between them and the Zionists, who are, they're also, as you say, the Chuck Schumer also said, oh, the reason we deserve that land and not the Palestinians is because the Torah told us this. So that's what he gets up politically and says in public, and says the Israelis deserve that land because the Torah gave it to the Jews. That's what he says. That's the rationale for Zionism that the head of the Democratic Party in the Senate gives. So, and Republicans are just as bad, if not or worse, or better, no better, and many times worse. People like Huckabee are totally religious. And so you have these various factions. I think the Iranian diaspora pro-Shah faction is part of the problematic, not a major part of the problematic, but it does come up. And I do think, Bolton has been on this line for a long time. A lot of people they're going to try and persuade Trump. Oh, all we have to do is knock out the leaders, knock out the Ayatollahs, and the people will rise up and they'll bring the Shah back, and we'll have a regime change in Iran, like they thought they would get rid of Putin in Russia, or, it's nonsense, but they're going to have a war. And it's very important that everybody remember the Iran-Iraq war. That was the biggest war in the 20th century after World War II. That was millions of people. That was a huge conflict. Okay. And the United States, the Gulf countries, they all went all in with Iraq in that, and Iran stood up to them. And the Iranian people, I think, aren't traitorous. I mean, if they see their nation attacked, they're not going to say, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity to bring in the Shah. They're going to say, our nation is under attack again by the same people who did this. And people in my family were killed fighting for this. So this is kind of standard third world nationalism, if you will, to go back to the 60s and 70s. The Americans still don't get it. They lost to it many times. They still don't get it. And now it's back. There's more power in it. There's more power. And the Iranians have capabilities.
And what exactly was the entire context of signal chats getting leaked, not once, but twice?
Yeah.
Was it just rumor mongering or psychological operation? Or why was it happening?
Well, the first time, it's interesting to distinguish or to notice the difference, the way they're being treated. The first time with Waltz was the villain. He was the one who stupidly included the reporter on the signal chat. Yeah. To a certain extent, it's a mountain out of a molehill. There was apparently, even during the Biden administration, people were authorized to talk on Signal. So that itself, it was the first time it was this stupid thing that he brought this reporter into it, which was and again, really, if Trump had been smart, if the Trump administration had been smart, they'd say, yeah, that was really stupid. Why should he do something like that? We're going to make sure that doesn't happen again. But instead, everybody hunkered down and tried to defend it and blah, blah, blah. Now you have something else maybe going on with Hegseth, because Hegseth, what I'm saying is, Netanyahu wanted Trump to attack Iran and go along with it right now. And Trump said, no, we're not going to do that now. We're going to try and talk to Iran. And the reporting is from a number of sources that there was a split in the administration about whether to attack right away or whether to go talk to Iran. And Hegseth was one of the people who said we should not attack now. This is the Pentagon is probably the source that's most likely to be reasonable about attacking Iran, because they know what the capabilities of Iran are. It's not going to be a cakewalk. And Hegseth and Witkoff but Hegseth was one of the people who resisted attacking Iran. And right after that, you got the two signal chats from Hegseth. And again, I don't know what to tell you. Why Hegseth thinks it's okay to include his wife and I don't know somebody else, on this chat. This is just stupid. And it should be, and to give them the particulars of the dates and times and forces that are going to be used in an attack. This is stupid. It's bad statecraft. I mean, it's bad operational security. It is. But there's a lot of suspicion. They're going after Hegseth, and Hegseth then got rid of a lot of people who were his loyalists, and they've purged the Pentagon of many of the people now who are people who resisted the idea of attacking Iran. So there's a lot of suspicion, and I'm I tend to believe that this probably is, with the Hegseth signal chats, this is an attempt to get rid of people who are in the Pentagon who are going to resist the Americans going along with an attack on Iran.
So my next question is that how do you see the role of Jason Hinkle? And Jason Hinkle, for example, even the Israeli veteran journalist Gideon Levy, he said nothing. He said that he didn't know about Jason Hinkle, and that he was, working along with Houthis or Hezbollah members. Jason Hinkle goes to Yemen. He does a photo shoot with the Houthis. I don't know if he's back.
You mean the American commentator, Jason Hinkle?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know much about him. I saw him going to Houthis. Look, the Houthis are the only country in the world that's militarily challenging Israel and the United States. And this is what has to happen. There's no aid going into Gaza. There's not until and unless Israel and the United States are challenged militarily. You need to have, and Hinkle's called for that, and he's right. You need to have powerful countries saying, we're going in with humanitarian aid, with rebuilding aid, with medical aid. We're going in escorted by military troops. And if you want to fight us over this, we will fight you over this, and we will defeat you over this. And this is not going to happen. Gaza is destroyed already, and the people of Gaza will be driven out until and unless that happens. And Iran can be one of them, but it's going to have to be something like Russia and China and Turkey, but nobody's doing it except the Houthis. The Houthis are saying, this is what we have a responsibility under international law to stop a genocide. If a genocide is in progress, it's not just good enough if you're a nation state to say, oh, that's a nasty thing. You have to try and stop it. You try to do what you can. And the Houthis are doing what they can to try and stop. They are challenging the United States militarily, and they're getting militarily hit by that. They're getting bombed in their military and civilian facilities, and they are trying to stop any goods from going to Israel, especially wartime goods. So that's their position. I support it 100%. And I want to see some other more powerful countries with more powerful military apparatus come in and say, we're putting an end to this Gaza nonsense. We're going to come in and make sure the hospitals function, make sure people have food, make sure kids aren't starving. And you want to fight us over that? We're not coming to attack Israel. We're coming to save Gaza. And if you want to attack us over that, then we're going to fight you, and we'll fight you. And they have to be a strong enough power that Israel and the United States are afraid to fight them. And that hasn't happened, but the Houthis are doing what they can. Look, the Houthis are doing pretty well. They have chased aircraft carriers out. The United States is very reluctant to put aircraft carriers too close to the coast now, because people have carrier killers, hypersonic missiles. I don't know the Houthis really could get rid of a man, but knock out a carrier, but the Iranians probably could. So this is one of the things, one of my favorite comments, I think it was Andrea Martiniano says, you're going to know the Americans are going to attack Iran when they take their carriers out of the Gulf, not when they put them in, because they don't want them near the Iranian. So that's one of the things to look at. And the Houthis are demonstrating that, they have a certain amount of power, not enough, but they're using it. Good for them. All I can say is good for the Houthis. I know this guy, Jason Hinkle, and I'm not, I don't quite know what to make of him, but generally I'm supportive of what he does. And I don't know I didn't realize he became that big an issue, that he went there.
Yeah. It was quite very, for Gideon Levy and others who have been on his podcast, they were really, humiliated and berated and accused of anti-Semitism, which is like everyone is accused of anti-Semitism. After he went, Hinkle goes to Yemen, and he had to.
Why would Gideon Levy be accused of anti-Semitism? Because Jason Hinkle went
because he appeared on his podcast before.
Oh yeah, of course,
so that kind of chutzpah. Because they cannot challenge Gideon Levy on grassroots level and the empirical evidence that he has. So they're trying to break him down. And but meanwhile, China helps with satellite imagery and missile fuels to the Houthis and even to Iran. And I don't know what role Turkey will play. Ahmed al-Sharra, according to Times of Israel, on 24th of April, actually met Congressman Mills, and he said that we can sign into Abraham Accords if certain negotiations are met.
So you mean the Syrian president, the Syrian. Yeah.
He said that he's ready for Abraham Accords.
Sure. Look, we've seen it clearly now. There's 100% certainty. You have no issue about it. These Takfiris in Syria were pawns of the United States and Israel. That's what they were set up to do. They were set up. I've written many times about it. They were set up to take down the Assad regime. This was a regime change operation in Syria that never stopped. It was interrupted for a while, but it was never stopped. They never gave it up. And Turkey played a particularly pernicious role in this. I wouldn't trust Erdogan or Turkey under Erdogan as far as I could throw him. And that's very nasty. And the regime in Syria now is, insofar as there is a regime, they really don't control much at all. The Israelis come in and do what they want. They've entirely destroyed the Syrian military apparatus. Syria, which was the quote famous land bridge between Iran and Hezbollah, now is an air bridge to Iran. This is a real defeat for the axis of resistance. What happened in Syria? The Syrian regime these guys are opportunists. They're engaging now in their own little genocidal attack on the Alawites, and they're a nasty group of people. And so that's one of the things that's weakened the entire axis of resistance and the Iranian position. And it's one of the reasons Israel is saying this is our time to strike. Look, Israel is going at will in Syria and Lebanon. They're blowing up. They just blew up this is nuts. Israel is doing what it wants. It's ceasefire. They don't pay any attention to it. They don't get any punishment for it. None at all. Nobody is stopping them. And they're going to continue going this. They're going to occupy as much of Syria as they want. They're going to occupy as much as Lebanon. Look, where's Hezbollah in Lebanon? Hezbollah has been weakened. We have to acknowledge it. If they weren't, they would be fighting Israel in Lebanon right now. They don't have the stuff to do it. They're afraid to do it. We got to acknowledge this. And, Iran is afraid that Israel is going to nuke them. And they should be. And that they're going to have to make a decision. It's a tough decision. Everybody should. That's one of the reasons Russia and why would Russia come in to defend Iran? They're not going to. I'm telling you. I hope they give them the intelligence. They'll give them the satellite intelligence. They'll send supplies. But anybody who thinks that Russia or China are going to come in to fight on the side of Iran, they're not, because they'll be nuked. Israel has nukes to nuke Russia, to nuke any country that comes in on the side. That's what they have the nuclear weapons for. And they've said it a number of times. We'll nuke Europe. They'll if anybody challenges them militarily enough to really threaten the Zionist project, they will get nuked. And but the other question really is, why would Russia or China bother? They're not really, sorry to tell you, but they're not really committed to saving the Palestinians. They have their own national interests. They'll watch as America destroys itself in some attack on Iran. It's going to weaken itself again. America's going to become weaker because of that. It's going to be devastated. American military facilities in the region will be devastated. Russia doesn't have to come in and fight for Iran to gain from that. They're going to gain from sitting back and watching. And so, this is the problem. I hope I'm wrong. Please make me wrong. But I don't think this is for the Palestinians. I got to say, this is the problem. Nobody supports the Palestinians as much as the United States supports Israel. Nobody really is there to support the cause of Palestinian resistance and Palestinian liberation in the same way that the United States is there to crush it, along with to support the Zionist project in crushing that. And nobody's willing to take the risks, the real military risks that would be involved in fighting that. Just not, certainly not only Syria, I mean, the other Gulf countries, the other Arab countries, they're not doing anything. Egypt could fight this if they want. Egypt is bought off by the United States completely.
They're too dependent on the U.S. Military financial endowments, the impact of cutting off of U.S. aid and so much. Egypt also is, I don't know why Witkoff actually said that Egypt is one place one has to be careful about an uprising or something. But Sisi is currently, I don't think so that President Sisi is in the position to challenge the days of, 48, 56, 73, all of those years are over.
I know. Look, they had an uprising. They put Morsi in power. There was a real uprising there. I think that was a real popular uprising. And what happened to it? They turned it around. They crushed it. I don't know whether Morsi not necessarily would have been the greatest thing since sliced bread, but on the other hand, the Americans didn't let it happen. They turned it back around. They gave it back to the military, which is a corrupt, or Egyptian military is corrupt. They're bought off by the Americans. And, so who's going to help the Palestinians? Who's going to end this? Nobody. And the next step for Israel right now is to ensure, for once and for all, at least for 20 years, that we have no challenge to our Zionist project. We got to get rid of Iran. We got to do to Iran what we've done to Syria and Iraq and Libya, et cetera, et cetera. And that they want to do that. Now, I don't think that's going to go down as easily as they think it is, but I don't know what's going to happen. Because from my point of view, once that starts, really, you got to be saying, we have to get rid of Israel. Because if you don't stop the Zionist project, I mean, or put it back in a cage, in a green line cage in some way, that what's going to happen, I think, is you'll have Russia and China and other countries in the world suddenly really pushing for a two-state solution.
Yeah.
That may be what the result of this is. But they're going to have to, again, Israel, they're going to have to force that on Israel. That's what Israel doesn't want. That's what they don't want. So that
is what Yair Lapid also recently said, that, in the absence of any kind of external pressure, what would eventually happen within Israel is Jews would be fighting Jews. Well,
that's right. And that's the Achilles heel for Israel is nobody will go there anymore. They're not going to get any more Jewish immigration to Israel. That they're going to leave. And all you'll have left in Israel are the hardest line religious nationalist settlers, and that it's going to become more and more impossible to present that as something that's acceptable to the world. Okay. Yeah. Apartheid does not have the right to defend itself and does not have the right to exist. And what we're seeing here, and everybody understands that in terms of his South African apartheid, or, people are becoming to understand that. And that's the other reason Israel wants to act, because the mood is changing in the United States. For the first time in the United States, over the last year and a half, there has developed a real anti-Zionist movement. Not just Israel's does bad things here and there and no two-state solution, but really, I understand now what Zionism is. Among young Jews, I understand what Zionism is, and it's wrong, and we have to defeat Zionism. So that's a movement that's happened. Just this week, there was for the first time a poll in the United States that showed over 50% of people support the Palestinians. Something like that, or don't have a favorable attitude towards Israel. And so that's something they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop it with repression here, with direct censorship, criminalization of pro-Palestinian, of anti-Zionist thought, anti-Zionist expression, and they're going to try and stop it by winning the battle once and for all, by getting rid of anything that's in their way, by creating, becoming so powerful and so strong that at least nobody can imagine resisting them for the next 10, 20 years. So that's what they have to do now, because they lose that. This is the key for Israel, is losing the support of Americans and losing support among half the Jews in Israel. Exactly. There's a lot of people in Israel who going along, having a nice life as a colonial master and thinking there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just happened to be in this situation of colonial mastery. And isn't this nice? But then they have to confront specifically the horrible, concrete vision of what it's taking to support that colonial mastery. They're going to say, and so many of them have somewhere else to go. I don't want to be part of this anymore, because they're going to keep attacking us. Yes, they will keep attacking you. It's the white slave owners in the South. Oh, Nat Turner came and killed my kids that was terrible. When the Nat Turner Rebellion happened in the South, it was nasty. Those slaves they slaughtered people in their beds, children and women. And they went into the Virginia legislature, and George Washington's grandson says, well, maybe we should think about ending slavery. And the others all said, no, we got to crush these. We got to crush them. We got to come down harder on them, on the slaves. So that's the position Israel's in now. And they've made their decision. They're going to come down harder on the Palestinians, then get rid of them. They did it again. We did it once. Nobody blinked an eye. For 50 to 75 years, we're going to do it again. No, look, we did it over 18 months. Nobody did a thing except the Houthis, sons of, and the Iranians complain. We know they have the power, so we want to get rid of them. But nobody's done anything. So they're absolutely convinced, and I have no reason I can't really argue with them, that they're going to get away with whatever they want.
Yeah. And so the last question for today is asked by Anurag. He's asking that in world order, Henry Kissinger describes the conflict between US and Iran as the clash between two irreconcilable visions of world systems of global order. The current post-1945 Westphalian order and Islamic order marked by revolution or Islamic awakening. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, that's just silly. Look, we can find all kinds of irreconcilable conflicts between philosophical concepts of world order and political order, between the Christian, the secular, the Islamic, the Jewish. You go back to their texts, you're going to find, you can make the argument based on any texts that, this is irreconcilable with that. And it turns out that people in the world have figured out ways of acting together, okay, and of actually getting along together. And when really terrible reactionary versions of something come up, if I don't know if you know what the Westboro Baptist Church is, but it's a Christian denomination in the United States that goes around to veterans' funerals and attacks the veterans' funerals for being, anti-Christian, whatever. It's so, you can find a version of Christianity that's irreconcilable with Islam, that's irreconcilable with Judaism, but that's irreconcilable with Hinduism or with whatever. So, but we figured out ways of working with that. So and really the West, Iran is not making they're not the ones who are endangering the Westphalian order. It's the United States and Israel who are attacking countries and who have been for decades attacking countries and paying no attention to the Westphalian state order or the international law state order. Okay, in fact, when the Americans attacked Iraq, there was a guy, Scowcroft, I think. Brent Scowcroft was a friend of Kissinger's, because people were then saying, after Iraq, we're going to attack Iran. And Scowcroft actually said, I remember this, well, that's crazy. That's just doing away with the entire Westphalian state order. They're just ignoring it. So really, it's not Iran that's done away with the Westphalian state order. Iran has a relatively, from my point of view, from a secular point of view, they have an Islamic regime that clericalized regime. I don't like that particularly very much, but they're working normally within the Westphalian state order. India has a Hindu nationalist regime. That if you look at the the deep philosophical concepts is irreconcilable with a lot of things, but they're working perfectly normally within a Westphalian state order. So, these things, and America is filled with radical Christians who are parts of the government and who believe that, I just told you, Chuck Schumer believes that Israel should exist because the Torah says so. That's irreconcilable with the Westphalian state order. But, people, so this is something that the Westerners say when, this is now a class of civilizations and our whole civilizations. And we should all have discussions about our, various kinds of, civilizational orders that are implicit in our worldviews. That's all fine to have. But we have figured out ways of working with that. I'm a Marxist, so I have a particular world order idea, but, I'm not stupid. and we have ways of working with each other. And we haven't had to realize it's part of the anti-globalization movement, and part of the power of it is that there's been too much, we can reduce everything to a set of universal values that erase all these cultural and religious differences. That's not that easy to do. And it may not be that good to do either. So, we have, it's not, but at the end of the day, for Henry Kissinger, who was the architect of destroying countries around the world, what was his position about the Westphalian world order in Chile? When he overthrew the government of Chile, this is the real quote from Kissinger that everybody should remember is to be America's friend is dangerous. To be America's enemy is dangerous, but to be their friend is deadly, is fatal. And that's the case. Look what's happening to Ukraine. Look what happened to these countries that were America's friends that took on America. So this is what people have to realize. And so
I guess we have to move beyond. We have to move beyond the entire, this very anachronistic now ideas of Samuel Huntington's Clash of Civilization, or the idea of Westphalian order, or the idea of, we have to move out of because these are very comfortable zones of theoretical discourse. And they have become very repetitive over the period of time, and they lack any kind of internal topical substance as things are evolving. And there was one quotation I heard, which was that America only cares about one Muslims, who are the Uyghurs in China. That is it. Yeah. And the things are getting pretty difficult, and we don't know what exactly is going to happen with the explosion and the impact of it on the Strait of Hormuz and the global shipping route. How much will it be disturbed? Because it will be. And we also don't know, because one thing which I keep telling is that we only know about Iran what Iran wants us to know about it. So to the extent that whatever Iran is right now, because they have a very, very visionary foreign minister right now, the kind of restraint that they are showing, what would be the eventual outcome of it, we never know. Because no matter how many times they have attacked Israel, or they have always told the mediator states like Saudi or UAE before. So we don't know what would be the repercussion. There will be a repercussion.
Oh yeah, it's going to be. It would be very bad. Yeah, it's interesting. I just saw you said the UAE and Saudi Arabia. The UAE sent a bunch of people at the instigation of the Americans, the Israelis. They got a bunch of officers together to go fight against Yemen. They all defected yesterday. They all defected to Yemen. Iran. Do we know what's happening in Iran? You're right that Iran keeps things close to the vest. You're right that Iran is restrained. Look, they were supposed to attack this. I'm still waiting for True Promise 2 or True Promise 3, which was the retaliation that they were supposed to give against Israel after the last strike on Israel. And they were very strong about it. We are going to retaliate. And they didn't, and they haven't. So they have shown a lot of restraint. This is the point. These people who are complaining, this is projection. You see that Israeli spokesman who got up the other day, said, Iran, someone asked this woman, why should Israel have nuclear weapons?
Exactly. Yeah.
And she said, we are not the ones who are attacking everybody in the region. Iran is attacking. I mean, it was incredible. She got up and stated everything that Israel is doing, yes, and blamed it on Iran. Iran is attacking all these countries in the region. They're the ones who are causing discord. Who was Israel attacking? We don't attack anybody. It was unbelievable.
It was a meltdown. It was a meltdown completely. But with this, I would like to thank you so much for your time and the privilege that we had. And I really, really enjoyed having a conversation, though we have taken more than what we had requested your time. But I hope that you continue to empower minds. And I hope, and I do request everyone who is watching it that do find him on Twitter, do find him on Substack. He regularly keeps writing, and it's a very different perspective, something which maybe the international media will not let you know about because it's not in their algorithmic advantage. So do follow him, and you'll get to learn a lot from what, the real perspective of US is, and what specifically will be maybe from 2 months down the line, which is going to be very terrible. So, and his, I cannot explain the, because it often feels that, if someone takes out time and talks, then it's very easy, but we have to understand that the kind of legacy that Sir carries and the kind of legacy that his own life has, not only in terms of theory, but also in praxis, is something that we have to be very, very thankful for, because he chose to give us his time to teach us like a mentor, and that we are very thankful for.
You've been very kind to me in your words about my work, and I'm very happy that I've had that effect on you. And
you're very famous in the diplomatic circles in India, by the way.
Well, that's something I would like to hear more about and hear from more Indians about. That's
in the think tanks and others. I don't even have to explain who you are. I'm like,
this is something it's hard for me to see. I don't see this at all. I'm very bad at self-promotion. It's true. So I like to hear that, of course, and I'm very pleased to hear it. And I would like to, if you have anybody else who wants to talk to me, I'll be happy to talk to them.
Yes, definitely.
So my Substack is Jim Kavanagh's Substack. My Twitter is @thepolemicist_. Yes. That's the key. And I've been very pleased to have this interaction with you, Shubhda, and I'd be pleased to hear from more people in India. This is amazing to me. This is one of the things that's great about the internet. On the one hand, I have an effect on people. On the other hand, I don't see it.
That is capitalism and
it does help me keep going. It does help me keep going because you need the feedback. You need the feedback.
No,
I do have my academic training leads me to write longer form things. Okay, yes. This is true, and so I write my over the last 12 years or so when I've been writing on the internet. A lot of them have been longer. I got to get some things together and put out a book, but a lot of the longer form things, and the internet has the TLDR, too long to read attitude. And I haven't gotten adjusted to that very well. But the people in the diplomatic corps, maybe they'll read things. Yeah.
No, my point is that it doesn't matter, even though Gen Z but TLDR has been made viral, but the point is if someone is genuinely, hungry for knowledge, long form analysis pieces are the best, actually, instead of short viral clips going, circling us on Instagram as the news source. That's not news. It might be outdated, it might be old fashioned, but the point is, if you need to have a point of view, you need to read long form analysis.
Yep.
Yeah. So with this, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining. And thank you so much to everyone. Bye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hope everybody
Bye.
appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.